Hey, what's up, Leo?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
It's our second
It was
episode,
like
man.
DJ Khaled. Like,
Wicka,
"Wang, wang,
wicka, wicka,
wang."
wicka, wicka, wicka.
I think I
Yeah.
have the.
Oh, nice.
You
I don't
heard
think we
that?
heard that. I don't think our audience is gonna hear that.
Um,
But at
okay.
some point, we're gonna like improve and have sounds and whatnot. As soon as we gather a bigger follower cohort, let's say it that
Exactly.
way.
Because that's what you need when you get bigger. Sounds.
Yes, sounds, always sounds.
Yeah. I see you're in the DeLorean.
You
I
see
like
me?
it.
You see my flux capacitor here?
Yes.
I gotta fix it so I can get back to the future, man.
Yeah. I love it.
I actually saw the new Flash movie, and dude, that was I really
Good.
enjoyed it. Surprisingly, I really enjoyed it.
Really.
Yes,
It's DC.
yeah,
So it's getting
DC.
better.
Yeah, DC are starting to come around. Like okay, they had lots of crappy movies, right? But then
Yeah.
obviously they had the Batman series of like Dark Knight and all the stuff that Nolan did. And then they had all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
But
Like
then like
all
yeah,
the rest.
suicide all the rest. But Suicide Squad wasn't bad, the new
Which one?
Batman. I think the first or the second one was it?
The second one. The
The
second
second
one
one
was
was
really good.
yeah.
The first one I didn't like it. With William
And
Smith, I didn't like it.
yeah, it
The
wasn't that
second
but
one was really good. I really
right,
enjoyed.
but what did come out of that was what do you call it? The one with John Cena.
Yeah, that one. Suicide
No,
Squad.
no. Yeah, but there was a
The one he
series.
did like by himself. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, damn it, what's the name of it?
I
I
forgot.
forget. Whatever. If anybody remembers, y'all can let
John
us know. But it was
Cena.
a really good show. Uh, search to
Was
Google.
yeah.
And do we have it? But
Yes.
anyways, so the new Batman also with what's his name? The vampire dude was also not bad. And now this
Was really
one,
good.
yeah, it was really good. And now this one, The Flash, was just so much fun, like lots of nostalgia and stuff. And like they did the whole multiverse thing of their own multiverse. So interesting. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I enjoyed it. All right. So, yeah, forget about like culture and movies right now. What we want to talk about today
What
is
chapter we are?
we are
I
in
think.
chapter 17, I think. Episode
Boom.
17. Boom. We got it. So this time we want to talk about CSS and the future of CSS, right?
Yes, please.
Some exciting things coming along, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was looking and it's like it looks really promising. I mean, not more than promising. It's like these guys are really getting their stuff together, and they're like really, really helping to build faster because it felt for me at least that for a long time it was like stuck, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, and now all these releases are like pushing this really, really, really forward. I mean, we really got used to use not the
Not
core
using the
CSS.
platform, right? Well,
Yeah,
just text.
yeah. And now they are like saying, you know what?
We
Uh,
got you.
yeah, hold my beer.
Yeah, yeah, no, CSS working group is doing amazing stuff. Like we already mentioned, CSS4 is actually a thing and going to be a thing. And we actually know that a lot of the stuff that kind of came out lately is part of CSS4, right? So layers, container queries, style queries, all those kind of stuff are coming down the pipeline. There is the Introp project, which is making all the browsers kind of implement all the latest new features of CSS and such great
Really
things
cool
that are,
stuff.
yeah. So let's get down and dirty and kind of
Let's do it.
check him out, right? So we have this list we kind of made preparing for this episode, kind of see what we can talk about and discuss. And the first thing we have on our bracket is layers, right? And CSS
Yeah.
layers are now widely supported on all browsers, which is super cool. And the basic idea of it, as defined by MDN, is the layer CSS at rule is used to declare a cascade layer and can also be used to define the order of precedence in case of multiple cascade layers. And now for the
Okay.
layman terms translation, would you like to take it? Do you understand what that means?
It feels like it's like a group that I can define, and then I can, it's gonna respect my that scope.
Kind of. It's name spacing. Basically, you can give a
Yeah.
name for like a layer of style sheet, which is you can define just a style sheet that has like your presets, for example, and call it like at layer reset,
Reset.
and just have your styles inside. And then you can have a layer that's specific to like a component or a module if you want, and call it component A, and have that. And then you can write at layer and actually define by giving the names of those layers you define, you're actually deciding on the specificity and the order of the cascade. So the one that you want most precedent, you'd put it last, right? Just
Oh
like
yeah,
the
of
cascade
course.
works.
Wait, so it's kind of, I can import it like separately.
You could, yes,
That's awesome. So it kind of
I
looks
think.
like a component, but without the component, only with the styling. It's like,
Kind of, yes. And you could mix it up with nesting, which is also almost completely supported in all of the browsers. So it's really
oh,
powerful.
that's
A
awesome.
real use case that I could see for this is like if you're coming onto a project that might have like a massive big chunk of like legacy CSS, and then you want to kind of override it or start working around like newer styles. So you could like reset and then start over gradually just per like component or per page. Could be pretty
Yeah. Ah, what do you
useful.
mean? You don't like important? Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have
that,
this like I think it changes like you don't need important with this anymore, right? Because
no.
you could just you could take the style you don't want anymore, the style sheet, put around it a layer, and then just move the order of precedence to be like lesser than the one you want to have.
Yeah, sounds really cool. And actually the we joke about the important thing. It's like it's a nightmare because when you have legacy code and there are like many importance, it's like so difficult. It's a code that it's really difficult to replace.
Right?
And this is a really cool use. Um,
Yeah, but I
I
wonder
think
how
that
it works. Like
yeah, I
I
think it's
wonder
gonna
if
be yes,
go
please.
ahead.
I think it is the use is gonna be because it sounds really simple, but I think it's gonna be really used by many people.
I want to kind of run an experiment, and I wonder what happens if you have a rule that has important on it, but the precedence of the layer, the last layer, is higher. Do you think that'll work and kind of win over specificity for that one?
It's a good question. I think it should because it's newer, and if they want to, but I don't think they want to break things. And important. It's like it's very specific. It's like we
I
need this
know.
thing really high. Um, the
Well, I'm
only
just
the only way to step on important for me, I think it's the hack of the animation.
hmm, what's the hack of the animation?
Animation, yeah, you can with animation you can be higher than important.
How so?
I don't know how, but if you create an animation and inside the animation you whatever you're having the same class
Mm-hmm.
that the important thing it's gonna be higher. It's a
Mm,
it's a really interesting hack.
that is a hack I did not know of. but I'd
Yeah.
like to see it. So I just kind of
Told you
I
about
ha
it years ago, like
m-
five
probably
years ago.
could
Yeah.
be like, the amount of information that goes
Yeah,
in
yeah,
and
yeah,
out.
yeah. And you said like, huh, interesting.
Yeah, could be. So
Yeah.
I have this code pen open, which I just kind of played around with layers, and I just checked out the whole important thing. So I have this, let me share my screen with you, but we'll also talk about it so our listener audience can kind of understand what we're talking about. So what I did is I defined three layers. So I have a main layer, a secondary layer, and a reset layer. But I also have like a general CSS unattached to layers. So what I did is I basically have a line that says layer starts with a reset. That is like the least precedent one. Then we have secondary and then main. And that's just because I played around with it. So the reset one obviously is the first one that takes into account, and all it does is just set the font family to some ugly Comic Sans. So everybody gets that. And then we have a secondary one that basically I have just a div with three paragraphs, nothing special. So the secondary layer actually colors all the P's as hot pink and gives an outline of some dotted red. And then we have the main one that is basically coloring the P in a different color and also coloring the first child of a P. If there is a first child, it colors it in purple. So what I did to kind of test it out is I played around with changing the order of the layers, but I also added an important rule on the outline for the paragraph that is in the secondary layer. And the important does take precedence. It wins, even though the secondary rule is defined as the second thing, where main is the last one that should take precedence. So
Yeah. So they don't want to break the internet.
right, they don't want to
Yeah.
break it, and important still kind of takes precedence and trumps all the rest. So then again, just don't use important. Try and structure your layers differently, and don't use important. Try and use layers.
Yeah.
That way you won't
Learn
break your shit.
specificity. It's the way.
Yep,
It's the way
that is
you
the way.
understand.
That
And
is
it's
what they
really,
teach it. They teach it in Mandalore, no? The way.
yeah, exactly. It's the way.
Cool. So, our next one that we wanted to have a look at was container queries, right?
Oh, I was waiting for this for so long. This is so cool.
So, what are you excited about, Leo? What excites you about container queries?
I'm so excited because media queries, we all know, media queries is the way of changing the styling when the whole, for example, width of a website or whatever your browser or in the mobile or desktop, whatever, it's a detection of a change of pixel density or width or height or whatever. But what I was thinking all the time is like, okay, why I can control a specific container with exactly with the this control, and now it's here. So you can have control of one container, and if you're like the desktop is like getting smaller or whatever, or or bigger, or they change or change applications, and you use a mobile application or
Or
iPad or
just
whatever.
having two screens on your side, you just have different panes that you kind of move around and
Yeah.
resize
And
on
this
your
is
desktop.
perfect because you can be so specific with your design decisions. You can
You
actually,
you style components. You don't style like a page anymore.
exactly. It's like, it's really good. It's like these things that give you specific control on a container, it's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you want. And that's why we use all kind of, CSS in JS because we have that control with
Oh,
CSS in JS. But now with this, you have the control again with CSS, pure CSS.
Yep. And
It's
also,
so cool.
I know that Tailwind have implemented like container queries as a plugin and is available also, which is kind of cool. So all like the utility classes that help for like media and media queries are like you could do the same thing with containers. So you can mark a parent as an at container and even give it a name, and then you can just have elements within that parent. Just have an at small, at medium, and you can define those different sizes however you want, like you would in CSS.
That's
That
awesome.
is, it's so cool. Yeah, its basic idea is like as soon as you resize your screen and the component changes or the element changes, then the styles of the children are affected by the parent size. It's just, I don't think that like the youngins understand how big this is and how hard this was
Yeah. What
pre-media
we
career.
had to do in the past to actually do something like that. Yeah. Everything was a hack at a certain
Yeah.
point. And now they are pushing forward and we're getting all these features. Oh wait, so the syntax it's like instead of media, like it's container.
Yeah, let's look at the syntax a little bit and talk about it. So I've opened up our the MDN web docs, and the basic syntax is you also have instead of at media, you have at container, and you
Hmm,
open parentheses and just say that the width is bigger or smaller from whatever you want to define, and then you open brackets and write your style definitions, basically. So
very
you
simple.
could, yeah, very simple, and of course you can use any kind of units you want. uh, but there's also some other things that are to use like container queries. You need to declare the containment context on an element so that the browser knows you might want to query dimensions of that container later. And then we have the container type, which you need to define for the container. So you have size, inline size, or normal. And the way it works, right? So the example that they show in MDN is just one div that holds another div that is a card and has just a title and a paragraph. And the main div that holds everything is just with a class post. And that post has a container type of inline size. And then within that, when the container, what they have here defined is if the container is larger than 700 pixels. So you mark that with at container, open a parentheses, have min width of 700 pixels, and then you have the styles inside. So then the H2, the title of it, will change the font size when the minimum width is of 700. So it starts off as like a 1M, like that's the general styling. And when the parent is bigger than 700 pixels, that'll change the font size to double that. That is
That's
pretty
awesome. In
cool.
the past, it will break.
Yep. And also you could name the containment contexts. So you could just add a property container name and just name your thing. Although we know how much we hate naming, but sometimes you have to, right?
Wait, but you don't. You can there. You can put the name in the container
Yep.
sidebar. Okay,
Yep.
so it's the same.
You it's what do you mean the same? It's not like media
Do
queries you can't name, right?
no,
So this is also kind of
no.
new.
I mean it's the same to do the container name property, or to
Mhm.
do it like container name and then
And then the rule. Yep.
yeah. Okay.
And there's also obviously like everything in CSS, there's a short container syntax. Then you can have like stuff with slashes. So you can declare the containment context and the property in the same line. Very similar to kind of what we have in like when you define margins or now with the CSS grid. So you can define like your columns and everything in one line with the slashes that kind of separates it. Yeah, very exciting thing.
This is so
And
cool. I'm gonna use it
yeah,
for sure.
no doubt that is one that I'm like gonna use in my next little project that I'm kind of gonna build probably.
Yep.
And yeah, container queries are the bomb, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So that is container queries for y'all. Next one we wanted to talk about was subgrid. Now, I remember that I explained subgrid to you and I kind of tried to show it, but the problem with subgrid at this point is it only works on uh
With
an
the flag.
experimental flag. Yep. Baseline is currently it's not widely supported. It is only currently supported by something like Chrome Canary and under an experimental flag. So yeah, I just opened up Canary to kind of show it up, and we're looking at the MDN again. And what we have here is we have a box that we're looking at that is a grid, and within it, it has an item that is also a grid. However, the grid template columns property for the child of the grid has the value of subgrid. And then it defines a grid template rows as 3 and 80 pixels. 3. We're just around over here. And we have our grid here, right? So we're looking at the main grid. And the main grid has a track size of 9 columns and then has 4 rows. But then the subgrid item is only in the grid column between 2 to 7, meaning it only has 5. And the grid row is only 2 to 4. And then the grid template columns is a subgrid. So then the sub item itself actually sits on the track of the grandparent and only takes the 2 rows that are defined to him and kind of takes exactly like the intersection between the parent and the child. So basically it gives you massive control over what part of the grid you want to lay your child within or your grandchild within.
Okay. Let me if you what was the way to do this before? To do like a grid inside a grid?
You can do a grid within a grid. However, the only problem with that is it doesn't respect the
The parent.
gutters and the parents like layout, right? So it'll be detached completely from the original column and rows.
Yeah, I get it. So now you have a grid with children that those children have elements inside and they have the properties of the parent grid.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Makes everything so much easier, especially for debugging.
Yeah. For debugging
Because
and
before that, to debug a problem in a grid was a nightmare.
yeah, also they like all of the browsers also added great debugging tools for CSS grids. So now if you go into
Yeah,
your dev tools, you could just mark um, an element that's a grid and click on it. So for example, in Chrome Canary, you could just you within your elements pane, you could see uh this little button that says grid, and when you click on
yeah,
it, it actually kind of shows you all the tracks of everything and the numbering of the columns and the rows, which is
yeah.
very helpful to understand what
Firefox
happens.
got this for a long time. It's like I
Yeah,
know no one uses it. I don't use it, but because of the grid, many times I open Firefox only for debugging grid. So, and now Chrome was like, okay, let's do it. We're gonna do it too. And these things, it's incredible because in browsers, in the browser war,
yeah.
uh, it used to be a browser war, and I think it's over because they are like, let's do the same. Everyone likes
Somewhat.
the same things. We don't want to see different things in different browsers. We hate that.
We do hate that, but
Hate it.
still, like nowadays, it's still Safari is like the new IE, although they have been making strides to get better. But there's still a lot of funky stuff that happens. with Safari, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, Safari, it's always gonna be. I think Safari, it's the the Internet Explorer now. They
Yeah,
became
that's
the
what I
new
said, man.
Internet Explorer.
The
All
new
the
IE.
problems specifically in CSS, it's like very difficult. JavaScript, not so much. It's fine, but CSS, they're always behind.
Yeah. Um, okay. So how about you take over the screen and share the next point, Leo?
Yeah. Where's Notion? What
I
do we have
know.
next?
What do we
Subgrid.
have next? Next on our list
Oh, my favorite.
is
I know why you
yes,
asked me.
that is the one that you
Text
were
wrap
super excited.
balance. Oh my
Go
God,
ahead
this
and
is
explain to the listeners what that means.
yeah. It's really easy to explain with the. Let me share the screen. Yes, I'm gonna
Go
share
ahead.
my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Awesome. So before text wrap balance, we used to write paragraphs, and the paragraph it's taking the whole length of the container.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and if you center the text, center the text could be broken with one word in the end, or maybe even worse, and it looks really ugly. But with the text wrap balance, it actually it's gonna rethink the whole paragraph to make it look perfect. And
Or
I know it sounds
balanced.
simple, but it's like it's so cool because we used to, fight with each paragraph with the margin, and we're trying to no, the 1 pixel, no, 2 pixels, and playing with each one to make it
Or
look good.
or add BRs after words to have the
Oh
line
my
break at the
God.
right place.
Exactly. And that was like our nightmare. And imagine that it's a text that needs to be, elastic, needs to be, fluid. So this is gonna fix it. That it doesn't matter in what container it's gonna be. It's always gonna be perfect. It's so good. This feature, mwah, it's
Yes, gotta love it.
genius.
So simple. So like one line and it solves such a slew of problems, right? And
Yeah,
all it needs, you add text dash wrap balance.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying that this is genius, and this is we need more things like this. It's one line. It's one line, and it's saving a lot of time and headaches. Well done.
Yep.
Um, let's go for the next one. I think I don't know if this is the next one.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm looking for because of the time. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, we wanted to discuss the next one. So it's okay. Let's skip to that one. These are all the viewport units, basically, is the one that you're looking at, right?
Yeah, and this one is important because you know that many browsers are different. Some have this bottom part with some buttons, of next, uh, home, whatever, and you have the other browsers that they don't have nothing. And when you we used to use VH to actually get the full height of the viewport, it wasn't the same for all the browsers. And when we have some uh, dynamic content, it was getting, like a little jump when you jump between pages. It
Yeah.
was because it was rethinking that bottom part, and it was, it's like little pains that we had to solve all the time. And this
Hmm.
thing, it's like it's gonna rethink the full height, no matter what it's gonna be in the bottom, which is great. You have
Yep. So
the
basically,
SVH for
it's different sizes that are more targeted at mobile
yeah,
devices that might
exactly,
have extra spacing or funny business with the bottom drawer and toolbar and like the
exactly.
URL bar.
Yeah, here's like a good example. You see, because when you use VH in the past, these
And
browsers, each one was taking a different height.
right, and VH is
And
it's view height, but the height of the thing was not exactly the same. That is the idea.
exactly.
And I had many times that like I used 100 VH to kind of cover the whole thing. And then the designer comes and says, "Oh no, but on my iPhone,
Yeah,
it's not exactly in the center because the URL bar is pushing it down." And no, so
yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah.
do it and calculate it and take off a little pixels here and yeah.
And then we needed to do it specific, to or maybe to do some media queries specific for the device. Remember?
Right.
It was
And then
really
again,
painful.
it was for the device, but not really the device, but for a screen of that size that
Yeah,
doesn't
pixel density.
necessarily yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then the CEO comes to you, is like, I have this, I'm using this Android, and it's like an Android, like really old phone. You're like, dude, you're the CEO. You should have a new phone.
No,
And
if he's a
okay,
CEO of
so
a startup, he should have an old phone, man. He should
yeah,
be skimping.
yeah. Oh my God. And this is great because you can target actually specific browsers and phones only because of if you don't need to know which phone is. You have now SVH and LVH, so you can target all. This is
What
great.
does it stand for? Do you have that
The
right in
S
front of you?
small,
Yeah.
the L
It,
large.
yeah, it's for
Yeah,
I didn't read it like I
yeah.
know that they
It's
exist. I didn't
small.
check like small, large, and medium,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah. Which is perfect. It's we need to understand this, so it's great. This is also really well done, and I don't widely support. So it's not supported by all of them, but I can see Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Safari, which is good enough for the
Mm,
beginning.
yeah, the
I
main
mean,
ones that people use.
mobile. For mobile,
Mhm.
actually, it's like pretty good. Actually, you know that in the iPhone, you don't really have other browsers. They're all Safari. This is
I know.
insane.
I know this. It's everything is a wrapper for Safari. They don't actually let you run Chromium on an iPhone.
It's so stupid. Apple, come on. Please stop it. Stop.
Yeah, I know Dan Shapiro has been kind of trying to champion this and saying like we should completely boycott Apple until they put let us use Chromium browsers on an
We
iPhone.
should. We should. Come on. Steve Jobs is not here anymore. And I know
Hey,
Apple did many changes now. So come on.
dude, I have an Android. You're the one with an Apple now. You
Yeah, I
got an
know.
iPhone.
Here it's easier. Yeah.
Take that
Okay.
blue bubble away from me.
I actually have two phones, so it's okay. Um, okay,
That I
color.
that I don't get at all, but that's a conversation for another time.
That I have two phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will explain it later.
Some other time. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Another cool little feature coming to CSS is the color function. And you
Color
being
function like we used to have in SAS.
mhm.
It's the same. I'm asking, I really don't know.
Honestly, I thought this was more your jam because you being more of a CSS veteran and also have a
Yeah,
keen
yeah,
eye
yeah.
for
But
design and colors.
yeah, but
Uh,
this function, so let me read. The color function notation allows a color to be specified in a particular specified color space rather than the implicit sRGB color space that most of the other color functions operate in. Support for a particular color space can be detected with the color gamut CSS media feature. So we have
so
the
ba
color function.
Hmm.
with
So it sounds like there's just more values for the colors, and then you have a wider range of the spectrum. Am I
yeah,
getting that
so
right?
I think so. What we have, because I know that there's the accent color and we have the color mix later. So color mix is different. So I'm trying to understand what's the difference between color and color mix. Because if I have a color and oh, I get it, I get it, I get it. I can see it here. Instead of having
Sure.
the
Can you bump up your
sRGB,
screen so I can see what you're seeing? I'm kind of having a hard time reading this a little bit.
what do you want?
And just zoom in your browser.
Ah, sure.
Command plus that shit. Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
A little bit more, a little bit more. Yes. Now I can see it. Okay.
Okay. So it's like exactly what you have with the sRGB, that you have the opacity in the end. Look, you
Hmm.
can add with the color, you can add like other, that like a difference in the color, but you can do it with any color. You don't need to, in the past we used to, the only way to add opacity to a color was with the sRGB,
Hmm.
because it was the only one who have a fourth property. So you can add the opacity in the end. So
I
now
see.
with color, you can do with any color. So it's exactly the same function with SAS. It's exactly the same. So
Nice.
another thing, it's really, really useful and many, many, many people use it. So now you can use it with CSS. It's about time.
Yeah. And I think that gives us a good segue to our next interesting property, which is CSS nesting, which is something that's also kind of one of the key features for SAS and less that a lot of people really liked, right? Is just the idea that you can nest now. You can just have a selector and then have another selector within that selector. That means it's like having uh, um, the descendant selector, which is the caret, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
now
This
you,
one's long waited. And I wonder if the browsers, they have actually already, they are supporting this, because
I
when
think,
you see in the right part, you don't see nesting. You see only one property, and then you see the other property is they're like separated.
yeah,
But
but
now that CSS, it's like supporting the nesting, so probably you're gonna see it in the CSS window.
yeah, and let's see. So I just opened up Can I Use, and it seems that it has a global support rate of 72%. So Chrome from version 112, it started supporting it. Edge, of course, the same. Safari only in 16.5 started supporting it, which is around just May this year. So then again, that doesn't mean to go. Firefox is late to the game, only going to support it in 117, which was
Wow.
just released. Yeah, Opera supports it and has supported it for a while now. But all kinds of like Opera Mobile, and like old Android browsers don't support it, and Firefox for Android. So it still has some way to come, but
72 is not that, it's not that good.
no, I wouldn't go and push it to production tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's say it that
No.
way.
You have a rule for percentage?
Well, I used to have a rule when I worked on products, when I was building products, but now with my you know, with my job nowadays that I do demos and stuff, I would just put
Yeah,
it
well,
there because
use
it's
it.
I'll just use
Yeah,
it
yeah,
because it's
yeah.
it's fun and looks good and makes sense.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the users and your requirements. But I'd probably not use something unless it was 90% at least. That's
90?
like
Wow. Okay.
that's my rule of thumb, like makes sense to me, right? Because you do want to support as many users as you can, and as soon as like their browsers don't support it, you have to have a fallback, and then there's this whole thing of how do you deal with that. So you have to write the styles twice, and
Yeah.
not so fun, right?
No. Yep.
So better have like progressive enhancement and graceful degradation, right?
Yeah. Completely.
All right,
Well, this is
cool.
very cool. I was waiting for this one for so long. I mean, nesting, it's like so in since with SAS version one, it was
Yeah.
incredible. So many years waiting for it.
Whoa. And the next one on our list is scroll-driven animations. And scroll-driven animations are a thing that have have been used as scroll-driven animations with JavaScript. But the only thing now is the scroll-driven animations is going to get better support and less boilerplate for JavaScript, and the animations themselves can be written into CSS, which is a great thing. So I just opened up a little demo here that kind of shows what can it do, and you can see what we're looking at is basically a web page that as we scroll, we have all kinds of different animations that are all tied to the scroll position of my nav bar. So as soon as you scroll up and down, we have elements popping in and out, and it's super cool. And
Yeah.
it's not
And
laggy or anything.
we used to do this with libraries. So now that we have support, I mean, this one is gonna be in the beginning for it's gonna be like basic support, but you know, it's great because you can save all that size that you're bringing all those libraries, and now you can save all the size, all the all the library size, and
Yep. And it's
this is
gonna
great.
have all kinds of properties. So you have the animation timeline, animation range start, when it ends, defining the named scroll progress timelines. So you have a property that is actually like the scroll timeline and the timeline axis, and you can name it, and you can view the timeline. You can define the named view progress timelines and modify the timeline scope. Really, really cool. Again, not something that is yet to be widely supported, so I wouldn't spend my time digging into it too long. It's just cool to know that it's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, Apple will be really, really thankful. all the all the sites that Apple build are with these kind of animations.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably they're
but
not gonna use it.
probably not. But the next one we wanted to discuss was the View Transitions API. And View Transition API, I think, is really another cool one that is this is a game changer, in my opinion. It's currently only supported in Chromium browsers, not supported in Firefox or Safari. So again, I wouldn't invest a lot of time in it, but the demos I've seen with this one are really good. The basics of it is it's going to allow changing the DOM in a single step while creating an animated transition between like the two states. So you're gonna have kind of a spa feeling for multi-page applications. So you're gonna have just for any website, you could add this when you're transitioning between pages, which is really,
You can
really, really cool.
between routes.
Yep, between routes
That's
and
so
URLs,
cool, man.
basically.
When I
And
see this kind of animations, it's always wow to me. It's like really great, and it's like enhance like the UI so much. And right now there are like many libraries that are doing this, but again, it's a lot of uh,
a lot of
uh,
code. You got to write
a lot
code.
of
You're
code.
not defining the animation within the CSS, and this is going to kind of allow you to make the update only through mostly CSS. You're still going to need to attach a listener of JavaScript to kind of understand if you're starting a transition between a page or an element. Um, uh, just so you can notify browser, okay, kick this in.
Yeah,
But then again, it's very
but
low
totally fine. It's
key.
like 4 lines, right?
Yeah, yeah, about something like that. So that
Yeah,
one is really
it's really cool.
exciting. And yeah, and we talked about the color functions, the color function, but we also wanted to discuss accent color, which we haven't yet discussed, which the accent color property is basically a way to style the things that were unstylable before. You had to hack around and kind of find a way to cover something and then change it and move it around. So now, like for example, input checkboxes were almost unstylable. You had to hide the checkbox and then put an image or something, and then also handle the state for when it's checked, change it to an SVG or some other image or stuff like that. But now you have it
Yeah, a
with
nightmare.
yeah, it was a nightmare, and now you have just a accent color. So you put on an
This is
input
so
type
cool.
checkbox. You basically just put accent color, something else, and it changes the color of that input box.
Let's show it.
And yeah,
It's here, right?
yep,
So it's so simple. I want to
it's so
cry.
simple. Yeah, you can
I
just
want to cry.
select the accent color is red, and if you go and you uncheck the checkbox, and also like the accent of the box itself, when you hover, I think you can also control it. If I'm not mistaken, no, in this demo it doesn't, but it's still really really simple, really really something cool that is gonna make our lives so much easier.
Okay,
What is
so
this?
this color was usually in the shadow dome, right? In the past. So what they did was to actually expose the color from the shadow dome to the regular dome.
Mhm.
It feels like it.
Yeah, so
It's so cool.
I just checked support for it, and this is at a 90.58% support rate.
Oh yeah,
Only so this one is definitely one you can start using nowadays, which
right
is
now.
pretty nifty. Yeah,
Super cool. Super
very,
cool.
very nice. What else do we
And
have? We
we
have
have the mix.
color mix. This one is for you again. Like I'm not sure I got it. I'm guessing this is like mixins also and SAS
Color
with the
mix, it's
colors.
like exactly what you are doing with SAS for a long time. It's exactly the same function. It's like imagine that you want a color mix between colors that you already have and
Mhm,
maybe colors that you don't know because you are getting them from an input, maybe you're getting from the user, so you don't know the colors and you don't know what you're going to get in the end,
mhm.
but you have this color mix function and you can have colors or you can have actually percentages, you can have variables. It's so cool, and then you add the colors and then you get the mix of them. Really
So
simple, and it's
do you think
so
could
useful.
you use this to make a gradient?
A gradient.
It would make sense that maybe this is a way to kind of mix your, if you have like three brand colors and then you mix those to kind of see what the gradient you want between like the transition of them. That could be a use case for that.
Maybe I'm trying to see. Usually, it's like in this, like in SAS, you don't do a gradient with them.
Mhm.
You're getting something like a color with opacity, but
Right. So this is a way to
because
kind
you
of
have
mix
the
your,
gradient function.
yeah, so this is just to make a spectrum of a
Yeah,
color, like, and have the
yeah,
different shades of it
yeah, with opacity.
with opacity. Cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
really nice.
Cool.
And I see
All
the
right.
last one, the CSS value functions.
Yeah.
I never
So
look
the
at this. What is?
so the CSS value function is let's read what it tells us. The value functions are a statement that invokes special data processing the calculations to form a CSS value for CSS properly. CSS value functions represent more complex data types, and they may take some input arguments to calculate the return value. So this is the counter one and the transition single properties. Is this the one we're talking about?
if I
Uh,
if I understand, it's like you have a property a function inside the property with a variable that you don't know yet, and you need to solve with the function.
mhm.
So it looks like props. It looks like the props function, right?
Somewhat. No, but this is no that okay. So now I see. So this is what we call CSS value functions are all the stuff that we use to kind of animate stuff and change and calculate within CSS. So the calc is considered to be a CSS value function. And
Yeah.
what we have that is coming around is new functions that are like round, that are going to calculate the rounded number based on a rounding strategy, mod, rem, the trigonomic functions, sinus, cosinus, tangents. So if you want to
I
do
remember
all kinds of
we talked
shapes,
about it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
This is so cool because you can do all kind of calculations inside CSS.
without the need of JavaScript. Yep.
Oh my God. This
So
is
stuff that goes into this bucket is like the blur function. So it can create a blur on an image, and you have the brightness and function, contrast. Drop shadow is one of these filter functions. Invert, opacity is considered to be one, and then you have the ones for colors, some that we discussed before, which is RGB, SSL. All of these are in the same bucket of value functions. And the same
got it,
as
got it.
gradient
What trigonometric
functions.
functions. So cool.
Yeah, so this is basically just a bucket, I think. Before this, right, we knew this. We knew like the specific names of those functions. Just I don't think I've ever referred to them as value functions, and now they
No.
have a few more that they're adding. So they're gonna also add image, I see, which is experimental. It's gonna define an image similarly to the fashion of the view rel function, but it's going to include specifying the image directionally and fallback images when the preferred image is not supported. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Here, regarding the gradient, you have the linear gradient, radial gradient, conic
Right,
gradient, many functions for gradients.
right. So this is also for the animation. So the scroll animation, that's actually going to be, it's part of this bucket of functions. So scroll is going to be a function that's going to help to set the animation timeline for your animation for the CSS scroll animations, and also the view and anonymous view progress timeline. So yeah, this is kind of the bucket that powers all the stuff.
Wow. I'm gonna go through this list. Is amazing.
Yeah, it's a big list.
Yeah. But it's great because if you have the calculations with the CSS, I wonder how much calculation you can save on JavaScript.
Right,
That could be like life changing if it's done well.
right. And think about, you're not gonna have to not do like shit within React and map over a list and then have the index and also use the index to put in something to calculate what is the padding for the next thing
Yeah.
or whatnot. Yep,
Yeah, that could be the life change.
could be, could
It's
be.
like a saving of code and also calculation.
Cool. And yeah, I think we went over our bucket list of things that we're
I love it.
excited about. And yeah, this is the future of CSS, and it's super exciting.
Looks really promising.
It's really promising. It
And
makes your life easier. And yeah,
totally.
CSS is a programming.
Yeah. And I hope that the meme with the Family Guy dude, it's going to be a thing in the past.
Yeah, we need to make a new meme for like the newfound CSS.
Yeah. No, but it really looks really promising and good, and many developers are going to do like really cool stuff with it.
Cool. So I think it's about time to wrap it up. Yeah, and for listeners and maybe viewers, we're gonna try and put this episode on YouTube and kind of see as an experiment if you like it or not, and if people view. And we'd love to know what you think. Drop us a line, hit us up on Twitter, whatever. If you like this, share it with your friends. And yeah, keep coding,
Twitter
keep
and
cool,
threads.
and Threads, and Mastodon, and Blue Sky,
Yeah.
and
We're
all the rest,
everywhere.
and Snapchat, and Signal, and
Yeah.
Telegram.
Yeah. And
All right.
Discord.
So for that, and for us, have a good time. Great talking to you,
See you,
Leo.
buddy.
See ya.
Bye bye.